like your friends, maybe your OGs and OBs, and you feel like they have achieved so much and you've done nothing with your life. It's never too late to start, so you can start today. And it's a great thing that you're starting with us here on Good Morning Uganda. Well, I'm joined by the team. Chantal, how are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. How are you, Olive?
I'm great. Are you sure you're very well, though?
Well, sometimes they say speak it, into existence. So yeah,
and it shall be.
It's a bit of a dull morning, but I'm pretty well. I feel okay. Sometimes it's good to check how you feel. I feel okay, so I can back that. Well, good morning, our viewers. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having a great morning with you, and of course, interacting with you on social media and also on the WhatsApp, usually during the poll questions that we put out. So we look forward to hearing from you, and welcome to the show.
Well, welcome to the show, and I would like to inform you that as Uganda jeers for the non-allied movement summit, you should know that we will be bringing you footage from those summits, the G77 plus China summits as well. We will be bringing you live footage from those events. So any updates that you need, you will find it here on the national broadcaster UBC. We will be here to inform you and have discussions regarding the same. So if you don't know what that means, please stay tuned to UBC. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Yes, good morning, Monica. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great, doing fantastic. And when you mentioned the NAM summit that is coming up next week, I've remembered something yesterday where reports were coming out that ministers, Ugandan ministers, will be receiving training for, etiquette training in order to prepare them for NAM on how they will respond to the visitors, how they will treat themselves amongst the visitors.
The way it was pronounced, the word etiquette.
Let's first leave that.
Why this morning?
But when I looked at that story, I think, first of all, it took me back to why are we in such a situation where we have to first train our own ministers on how to treat themselves in front of visitors. Exactly. It's more like when we were still in school, where when you're expecting, let's say, a member of parliament coming in or a honorable from any area, that is when you would see teachers preparing us in a way we have to greet, how we need to act throughout the entire day. So once I saw such a report, my mind drove me back to such a time, because that is when you start acting like you're so holy as a student. And I'm thinking this is how we are going to see our members of parliament, or even the ministers or other high, ranking officials in Uganda, trying to please our visitors. Yet ideally, maybe some of them are not welcoming as such. But anyways, it's a good move, I should say.
It's more like sweeping under the bed and under the chairs because you have visitors. These are things you're supposed to do on a daily, but still, if it is going to save us some bit of shame, then maybe we should do that. Though I am not, Jerome Paul, do you think about the time where we might probably be setting ourselves up, and what do I mean? You remember when government released money for some people to teach the youth on how to drink coffee?
How to drink coffee.
And as we know, that never took off, yet the money was released. So I'm hoping that this time round something will be done, and we don't end up with an Auditor General's report
where we have facilitators who wanted money for the training.
Yeah, and the training didn't happen, but the money was released. So we hope for the best. But Chirabo, how are you?
I'm very fine. I want to begin on a positive note.
Yes.
But before I do that, I want to just let Ugandans know that the Presidential Press Unit wishes to inform Ugandans that His Excellency Kaguta Museveni will address the nation today on matters of security, the progress of the operations against ADF, but also security-related issues. So today at exactly 8, he is expected to address the nation, and Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, all our radio stations and TV stations will give you that coverage, plus the various online platforms. So do not miss the President's address. Of course, there's so much we expect. Maybe something regarding the Bujingo, the operations, and all that. So you can't afford to miss His Excellency tonight. But I want to be positive on the training for ministers. Many countries do that when they're having big guests coming in, big conferences. Sometimes it is how you will enter the room, and to avoid certain things. Even, to be honest, how you interact with these people. You know, it may not be a big shame, but these are people coming and expect so much from you. We are about 25 presidents, heads of states have confirmed.
Yes.
You know, so you need, you know, maybe some, and no wonder one time His Excellency referred to fishermen. So you have to be very critical to ensure that things you don't, small things, but can cause embarrassment.
To the country.
To the country, small things. So to avoid this, and this is not for Uganda only, the only problem I may have, I don't know the budget for that training, how big it is. Because the facilitators are not going to do these things for free. I want to believe. You never know, even the ministers would have some allowances for sitting.
There have been questions on this.
That could be the issue. But for me, have you passed around Kololo of late?
Yes.
Around Sheraton?
No, Kololo ceremonial grounds.
No, I've passed around maybe Sheraton,
now,
Kampala Club.
You see vehicles of ministers, commissioners, that have been removed from them for temporary time, as we have now, to be used by visitors. Now, I've always asked, why does government spend a lot of money buying these expensive vehicles? But now, I see a bit of value for money, where a minister's vehicle, the vehicle has been taken, so he's going to be using the PS, his vehicle, and the PS will use the director. Then the director may use a pickup within the ministry, or a double cabin within the ministry. So instead of government going out and hiring or making huge passage to purchase vehicles, now we are going to use these luxurious.
But the good thing is also we received some new vehicles as well.
But there aren't enough
from China. Was it from China?
Yes,
we are targeting about 800 vehicles that we need. So the donation was slightly not enough, but now we expect to have more vehicles, since we have a number of ministers and we have very good state-of-art vehicles. For the first time, I feel, yes, better.
For the first time, you feel like,
that these cars now, they are saving
taxpayers' money.
They are saving
has come to
taxpayers' money, because in government, anything that involves money, spending, one, government spends high. If they hire your vehicles, government are the best people to do business with, because they'll hire at higher rates. That maybe so now it has saved us even those issues of reports after investigating cash scandals and all that we won't have, because we've been having discussions with our ministers.
Well, that's quite a good update. So we hope that Ugandans, for once, you will have positive things to say about how government has actually prepared for these summits. I mean, Kampala was a construction site around November and December, but Kampala Capital City Authority actually says that the road construction is at 85% completion, and that is no small feat. A lot has been done in a short period of time, but as we speak, many roads are now passable. You can use the roads. Of course, gear yourself up for a lot of traffic jam in the coming days. But if you plan your routes well and leave your home early, then you shouldn't have a problem. At this point, we are getting into the local news.
Well, let's begin with the attempted shooting on Pastor Bujingo that led to the loss of his driver. Now, police have linked the gun used in killing of Richard Muhumuza to the assassination of Olex Isma in 2023. Let Muhumuza, a former bodyguard to Pastor Bujingo, was in a vehicle that was shot at by unknown assailants. Police have put a 20 million shillings reward for anyone with information regarding the suspects. The police have linked the firearm used in the attempted murder of Bujingo and the killing of Richard Muhumuza to the cold-blooded assassination of blogger and critic Isma Olex, who was shot last year. Police have also put money for anyone who will give important information leading to the arrest of the suspects.
And moving on, Uganda is 98% ready to host the non-allied movement and G77 plus China summits. The head of public diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Dr. Sam Omara, says by Friday this week, Uganda will have achieved the remaining 2%. To date, 120 delegations have confirmed participation, with 3 delegates being observer groups. 25 ministers of foreign affairs have also confirmed participation. As regards media accreditation, 98 international journalists and 273 local journalists have so far been accredited, and the exercise is still ongoing. In addition to getting accreditation to over the 2 summits, journalists covering different venues will be issued with an overlay tag, which they will have to return every end of day. Hotel Africana is the main media center, and accordingly office space and some equipment like computers have been put in place.
And relatedly, Kampala is at its point of transformation following the ongoing road projects that prepare the capital city for the upcoming Non-Allied Movement Summit and G77+. The ongoing road works make Kampala a smart city for Ugandans as we prepare for the guests to attend the Non-Allied Movement Summit and the G77+. The routes are Kampala Flyover, Munyonyo Road and Entebbe Road, all about to be completed with measures of safety including installation of security cameras and tunnel lights. In a recent discussion with the staff at Kampala Flyover, UBC learned that Kampala Flyover stands at 81% completion. Despite challenges faced during the project establishment, Kampala Flyover promises business opportunities to the surrounding community, particularly those providing essential services for the workforce.
In other news, security has been tightened at the YSA Tax Park after 2 factions clashed over leadership. This follows the swearing in of the appointed interim chairman Rajab Mukasa, which has prompted Francis Semakade's faction to attack them, accusing them of seizure of power. Disputes have been raging among tax drivers and operators at YSA Park, with several clashes on leadership between the 2 factions. The 2 factions are between Chairman Francis Semakade's and Interim Chairman Rajab Mukasa's smart, with each side accusing the other of bad management. And on Monday morning yesterday, drivers who subscribed to Mukasa Smart, who has been appointed as the interim, have been preparing for the swearing-in ceremony. No sooner had they started the ceremony than Semakade's faction intervened with placards chasing away Mukasa's supporters. A clash ensued, followed by verbal exchanges which prompted police to deploy. The fight escalated and military police was also prompted to come in to calm the situation. In the same scuffle, police arrested Semakade and later was taken to Kawempe police station. UTOF chairman Rashid Sekindi said they had come to end the dispute. Police spokesperson Patrick Onyango confirmed the incident and the arrests. YSA Park remained cordoned off by security as of yesterday. Well, that does it for the local news. Now Chantal Olive takes us through the international news.
Well, internationally, we are first of all taking a look at the U.S. officials who are renewing calls for Israel to reduce civilian casualties in Gaza. Now, U.S. officials have reiterated calls for Israel to ease its assault on Gaza as the Ministry of Health in the besieged Palestinian territory reports hundreds of more deaths. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting the Middle East amidst growing alarm that Israel's war on Gaza could turn into a regional conflagration. He arrived in Israel late on Monday after a day meeting Gulf Arab leaders. Israeli officials have said they are entering a new phase of more targeted warfare after the mass bombardments that have laid waste to the Gaza Strip and killed more than 23,000 people, according to Palestinian authorities. Blinken held talks with the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia on Monday to try to chart a way out of the conflict. Away from that, the death toll from Japan's New Year's Day earthquake has jumped to 161, with more than 100 people still missing and snow complicating relief efforts. More than 2,000 people remain cut off since the magnitude 7.6 New Year's Day quake, with thousands of troops, firefighters and police continuing to search collapsed buildings on Monday in the hope of finding survivors. Authorities warned of the danger of landslides throughout the hard-hit Noto Peninsula in Ishikawa Prefecture, with snow adding to the danger. An estimated 1,000 landslides have already been reported in the area as a result of the quake and wet weather. About 18,000 households in the Ishikawa region remained without electricity yesterday, while more than 66,100 households were without water on Sunday. Many of the 28,800 people packed into government shelters were also without sufficient water, electricity, and heating, and sleeping on cold floors. Back to Africa, Monday should have marked the start of the academic year in Zambia, but children there will instead have to wait 3 weeks to return to class. That is because the authorities want to stop the spread of cholera, saying there is an urgent need for action and awareness following an increase in cholera-related deaths. More than 200 people in Zambia have died of the disease since October. In the last 24 hours alone, there have been 27 cholera deaths. Zambia is among 18 countries in the world experiencing cholera outbreaks, according to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The bacterial disease is spread by contaminated water or food and causes severe dehydration from vomiting and diarrhea. Left untreated, it can kill within hours. Now, speaking matters climate, in a world grappling with the realities of climate change, Florida State University researchers are shedding light on a critical aspect of this global challenge: the climate migration patterns influenced by rising sea levels. Their study reveals a complex web of demographic shifts with far-reaching implications. The study, spearheaded by Associate Professor of Sociology Matt Hauer, doctoral student Sunshine Jacobs, and computational scientist Scott Kalb, focuses on the demographic changes driven by climate-induced sea level rise. It forces younger populations moving inland, leaving older residents in coastal areas. This demographic shift poses unique challenges for both the departing and receiving communities. Hauer explains that cities receiving these young migrants will need to adapt sustainably to their growing populations. This includes bolstering infrastructure and services like healthcare, construction, various service industries. Well, that is it for climate news, and that's what is happening in some parts of the world.
Thank you, Chantal, for that update. Now, Jerome Paul Sonko has some news for us that has made it to the front pages of the dailies.
Well, starting it off with the New Vision this morning, Katanga murder, daughter faces arrest as court declines to hear bail application. That is on the top pages of the New Vision today. Now, Kazimba marks 40 years in marriage, as also still on the same, rebukes those who sued him. Read about that in the New Vision today. Now, Free Inside is a special magazine for teenagers as well, something the parents can look out for. The Electoral Commission, contracts of 6 commissioners have expired. Read about that. Then also Muhoozi visits the Kabalega National Park, a pictorial of Muhoozi at the Maction Falls. Then also Dr. Abiriga murder, why his wife was arrested. Details of that in the New Vision today. Then the oil and gas deals worth 970 billion shillings set aside for Ugandans. Then in the matters to do with Bujingo shooting, the CID offers 20 million shillings bounty for pistol used in shooting. That is with the New Vision. Crossing the borders now to Kenya with the Daily Nation. Kabaraka tops KCSE as the results were released. yesterday. Then there's also a list of the top performing students in Kenya. Then you can read more about the other opportunities for universities, including Mount Kenya, and when the admission will be open. Then lastly, from our press review, we head to Tanzania with the Citizen newspaper as lorry owners upbeat despite impending SGR competition. Then chasing spark of personal growth amid challenges. Read about that in the Citizen today. In football, there is still room for improvement, says Stars skipper Mbwana Samata ahead of the African Cup of Nations that kicks off on Saturday in Cote d'Ivoire. Now, also the East African community in fresh move to slash operating costs. There is also a task ahead for new NEMC chief. Read about her and what are some of the key objectives she's looking at. Then also BBC film TB Joshua raped and tortured worshippers. Read about that particular investigative report from the BBC, and that is with the Citizen newspaper this Tuesday. And well, that is it for what we have from our press review this morning.
Thank you, Jerome Paul. Now, I know that as at the start of the day, you need as much inspiration as possible, and that's what we do here. We inspire you. And coming up next is Cheza for Yesu by Gabi Tate. We'll be right back.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma and I'm joined by Chantal Olive Akaninda, Jerome Paul Sonko and Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono. It's the 9th day of January 2024. We are glad to be here with you, and we hope that today and the days coming forth may be a good day for you, and that you may achieve your dreams for this year. Now, there is something about a new year. Many people make resolutions and goals, and sometimes you are under pressure to make sure that you have dreams and goals written down. But also, the most important thing actually is to also put systems in place that will enable you to achieve some of your goals. And if you had set some goals last year that you were not able to achieve, you may actually consider not having new goals, but actually just follow through with the ones that you had formed last year and see that you get them to completion this new year. Well, I decided to start this morning with a word of encouragement for you that is under pressure to be like your friends, maybe your OGs and OBs, and you feel like they have achieved so much and you've done nothing with your life. It's never too late to start, so you can start today. And it's a great thing that you're starting with us here on Good Morning Uganda. Well, I'm joined by the team. Chantal, how are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. How are you, Olive?
I'm great. Are you sure you're very well, though?
was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Founding of NAM. The non-aligned movement emerged in 1961 during the Belgrade Conference in Yugoslavia, a historic event that marked the coming together of leaders from newly independent nations seeking to navigate the complex geopolitical landscape of the Cold War. As a response, NAM aimed to provide a platform for countries to assert their autonomy without aligning with either superpower.
So this is my general perception. One, that this project entered in strategic areas of government, but that it has created a base for the now last mile strategy, which is the parish development model. And therefore this base that it has left will help us actually, and I'm sure we'll get better results in a Chole area and Ajumani when we are implementing the parish development model.
Well, it is Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najima, and I'm joined by Chantal Olive Akandinda and Jerome Paul Sonko. Together, would like to have a look at a story that broke out yesterday, where there was a ruling by a High Court judge that landlords can now forcefully enter into or break into premises for their tenants. Now, on April 12, 2022, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni assented to the Landlord and Tenants Act 2022. And among the specifications in this act is that if a tenant defaults on recent payment and is in arrears, the landlord can actually apply to courts of law to recover the said accumulated rent. Also, the act stipulates that where the default continues for more than 30 days, the landlord shall be entitled to re-enter the premises and take possession in the presence of the area LC officials. Now, going back to the ruling by Justice Musa Sekana, it begs for the question, was the landlord acting lawfully, or they just abused the law and did what they did because at the end of the day, the property is theirs? Or why did this Miss Nalbega go to court? Why did she decide to sue? And is there room for appeal, or the landlord actually acted legally? So would like to have a look at that. And of course, if you're a tenant, I know many tenants could be wondering, is this what my landlord in my place of residence or place of business is going to do? We will be taking a deeper look into the act and to see where tenants actually are protected, so that we inform you, and in case of anything, you act accordingly. Well, I'll go back to my colleagues. And Jerome Paul, earlier on, we were actually talking about this act. And my big question, even when yesterday when you shared that update in the press review, it was a big headline in one of the dailies. And my question, the first thing that came to my mind was, did the landlord act illegally, or they acted legally to begin with? And of course, what did the judge base on to come up with this ruling?
Well, they acted legally, according to, when you look at some of the lawmakers in the country, who by the time the president asserted it into law, the bill into law, had revealed that the law was quite favorable to the tenants than the landlord. And during such a time, we did not have a custodial sentence for a tenant who was actually, contravening with the act. So, but also when you look at some of the provisions within the law, if I'm to look through, you can realize that a landlord and a tenant can have an agreement. And the agreement can either be oral or written, depending on the terms and conditions put on board. So that means you can have an agreement that you're supposed to pay in this particular period of time. And that once that agreement is actually, not respected, then the landlord is allowed or accepted to evict you in the presence of the local council officials, or let's say the local government officials around the area.
Okay.
Because they always have an agreement that is backing them. However, before eviction, you get to realize that a landlord is not supposed to evict you minus warning or sending you a letter, or let's say just a quick reminder before the eviction takes place or before they break into your premises. And of course, in such circumstances, breaking into the premises is not legal. But when you look at the fact that in most cases, when you look at the provisions within the act, is that once a landlord does write to, let's say, the tenant, let's say a month or 2 months before, and telling them or reminding them that either way, I'm going to look for a new client or a new tenant, or we are going to use that space for something else, then the response of the tenant has to be in relation to what the landlord was telling them. Because in certain circumstances, a tenant, for as long as you've been clearing your, let's say, your rent due, you have to make sure that at least you complete your month. And that is backed by the agreement you have. So in these circumstances, in this circumstance, why the ruling was in favor of the tenant rather in the favor of the landlord, it is because it was legal. Because the findings are the tenant had failed to pay of the dues, and they had actually exceeded even the grace period. So the judge had to actually come through and rule in favor of the landlord, who was supposed to be given room to ideally get a new tenant in such circumstances.
The tenant also argued that she paid her rent, she cleared the 6 months arrears of rent on the 8th of September, but still this did not stop the landlord from evicting her on the 9th of September. And I'm curious to know if the problem was arrears and they have been paid, why evict the person the next day?
Well, when you also look at what the judge ruled out in this particular circumstance, the judge came out and revealed that it does seem like the tenant only cleared after realizing that they are getting evicted the next day. Or because in most cases landlords write to you and tell you, because you've spent this and this particular, because it was a period of 6 months here. And someone is saying, if you've gone 6 months without paying and I've given you all that for a grace period, and then you're not responding to me, and the funny part in this circumstance, and it's something that normally happens in most cases, in most scenarios, especially in arcades, some landlords actually claim that some of their tenants close these particular shops so that no one can access these particular shops unless they are available. And at times, some tenants, according to the landlords, tend to also switch off their phones by the time you're looking for them. It's more like you're having a house and then you're no longer seeing your tenant because they failed to pay or clear and they ran away or they switched off.
Taking calls,
exactly.
So you can't access them.
So that is why the landlord had already made plans to evict the tenant. Now, in the event that the plan was already there for eviction, the tenant was also quick to clear off. But according to the ruling of the judge is that if at all the landlord wasn't planning to evict, then that means the tenant was going to defy the situation and fail to pay as well. So this is where the landlord was actually saved. And this is how the legal part of it came in to rescue the landlords in such a circumstance.
based on an act that was purportedly mainly supporting or protecting tenants. Now, according to this ruling, do we know the specific period of default? Before the act, I remember many Ugandans used to say that a landlord cannot forcefully evict you from a property if you have he has not given you 3 months of notice. But what does the law say? Is it 3 months, or is it or is it 1 month? And also, must the landlord follow and obey the 3 months, or they have some rights too?
Well, I saw a disclaimer that that was saying that whereas this objective, especially when it comes to the act, the objective is good and well intended to bridge the relationship between the landlord and the tenant, there is also a part where it breaches or infringes on the contract or the agreement that can be made between the tenant and the landlord. Just like you asked, there are those that would sit and agree, and they actually agree and say, in 30 days I have to have cleared, or in 90 days if you haven't, you get out, or depending on what these people agree upon. So in this case, in a way, it infringes on the right to have a contract that that can serve interests of both parties. Yes, it could also rule out some bit of fairness, because you don't know what is happening in the background. Whereas some tenants can be funny. Sometimes things, especially for business, they may not be as good as probably they look. But well, at the end of the day, that's where now the line has to be drawn. And
actually the notice is supposed to come 90 days before the eviction.
Yeah, before you evict me, it's 90 days.
90 days.
So let me get some clarification here. Before you're evicted for whatever reason, maybe renovation, maybe the repossession of the property. Yes. So for whatever reason you're being evicted, do you have, is it 90 days with the arrears, or 90 days whether you've paid?
It's a notice of 90 days. That means you're supposed to have cleared.
If, for example, I need the property, say I'm selling, I'm going to give you a notice 90 days to the time when you are supposed to leave. So in those 90 days, you are expected, 1, to prepare to look for somewhere else to go, 2, to clear if you have any areas, and also those 90 days, you have to clear them as well. So prepare to pay any areas if you have, but also prepare to clear those 90 days as you also prepare to get out of
because even at 90 days you may think of leaving immediately after 30 days, but clearing also the other areas is also important. But also
it's entirely upon you. You can leave after 1 month or 2 months when they give you the...
But when you have cleared.
Yes.
Because some tenants were under the pretext of thinking that 90 days, you can, the landlord, if they don't give you 90 days, you can actually leave with their money. So it needs to be known that the 90 days are only to give you a heads up, but you must clear the money to zero. You were saying something?
That there is also, a highlight within the law, or a stipulation within the law that restricts payment of more than 3 months in rent advance. And I think this is where most of the landlords have failed when it comes to advance payment. We've seen some landlords who actually ask for 6 months.
6 months, yes.
Others 4. And yet the law says it is not in order of asking for more than 3 months.
That is the part where we go back to the disclaimer that now this act restricts the contract or the fairness, or restricts us from having certain conversations or agreements as individuals because of this that was put in place.
But it's like you said, Sonko, it sounds like it still favors the tenant. Imagine if you're a tenant and if you can't raise 6 months of especially the initial deposit, you cannot get the property. You can't get maybe a shop space, or you cannot get even a place of abode. So still, I think the act was considering the other person. Yes.
And also with the agreement, as a landlord, you're not supposed to change, let's say, the fee or the charges someone is supposed to pay until your agreement is done.
It's done, yes.
So if you had a written agreement or a moral agreement of someone who's going to be your tenant for, let's say, a period of 1 year, then you're not supposed to wake up in the morning and tell them, I'm increasing rent until that time has elapsed.
And when the time elapses as well, elapses, I think that's the word. When the time elapses, you can only increase by 10%.
So it goes back to the fact that it's favoring the tenants more than the landlord. However, in such a ruling, like you've mentioned at the start of our discussion, you do realize now the landlords may start getting more power. But however, this is not stipulated in the law. This was courtesy of the ruling. Yes. So that means if a landlord happens to take you to court and the court ruling is in your favor, well and good. But also if it's in the favor of the landlord, then you also have to face the charges as well.
Because this one was dismissed with costs. The lady Ruth Nalubega that had sued the businessman Drake Lubega had wanted to be awarded 272 million because her claim was that her property was forcefully taken out of the premises and that some of it was lost. And that still takes us back to what the judge said, because the judge in his ruling also said that if the landlord had repossessed this property with the intention to keep the property, then the landlord would have been in error and would have been charged to pay damages. But he says the landlord only took out the property so that he can regain access to his premises and give it to a new tenant. So if you're leaving property behind with the idea that I'll go and sue, they give me more money because they touched my property, unfortunately you may not be protected, because at the end of the day, what was the intention of the landlord in taking or removing the property from his premises? But now, still, I would like for us to see other specifications within the law. You've said that it protects the tenants largely as vis-a-vis the landlords. First of all, there was, before the bill was assented into law, that is the Landlords and Tenants Bill Act now of 2022, there were complaints from tenants, especially in the business community, that landlords force them to pay rent in foreign currency, especially US dollars. What does the Act say about that?
The Act restricts payment, rent denominations should be in Uganda shillings unless there is contrary agreement. This maintains the value of the Ugandan currency. So we are not supposed to be paying rent in any other currency except in Uganda shillings, unless if you have agreed to it in the background or you are the person that prefers, but the law says you are supposed to be paying in Uganda shillings. So that is the primary. Unless otherwise in the middle there is other agreements you have, depending on now how you decide with your tenant or with your landlord. But according to the law, especially now that's the part where it enforces that if I don't have the 6 months, I pay 3 months. If I don't have the dollars, I am paying in shillings, because that's what the law says.
And you know, even when it comes to the eviction part, where a tenant is unlawfully evicted, which is not in accordance to the Act or even in the agreement, you know, there is an agreement bit of it. The good thing about the law is that they respect the idea that a landlord and a tenant can still have their own agreement.
Yes.
An agreement which has terms and conditions. So when it comes to eviction, both of you really need to sit, or you really need to weigh into the agreement. What was in the agreement? If it was a moral agreement or if it was a written agreement, who were the parties that were available? Because there is also that element that before the eviction takes part, what makes it unlawful, by the way, is that if at all the people who are doing the eviction are doing it in the absentia of, let's say, the area officials or leaders, let's say local council, or you can as well maybe say a community chief and the like, then that becomes unlawful, because then that means you're just breaking into someone's property. It's more like theft. But at the end of it all, when it comes to eviction, your agreement is something that is also supposed to be looked at, the agreement between the landlord and the tenant.
Well, we'd like for you to join us in this conversation, whether you're a landlord or a tenant. You can share your views. I would like to hear from landlords and what they have to say about this act and whether or not they feel suppressed or stifled by it. But also regarding this ruling, I would like to hear from the tenants, especially the part where now the ruling says that landlords have a right to forcefully enter the premises of tenants. You can join this conversation on WhatsApp number 0709602592, and also you can share your views on our X app. The hashtag is UBCGMU, and we are asking the question: what are your thoughts on a ruling that landlords can forcibly break into rented properties? Again, the WhatsApp number through which you can have this conversation with us is 0709602592. Please don't call, just text. We will be able to read your feedback because it is important to us. Now, Jerome Paul, you are mentioning something about the agreement that the landlords have. What more is there that we need to know about the act?
Then there is also the court may order the landlord to pay the tenant equivalent of 3-month rent payable as compensation. I think even in the ruling, this is where the tenant here wanted more in regards to damages. That is in case or payment of damages. Still, this is due to the eviction. When you look at the eviction, as you're evicting to the landlords, again, as you're evicting your tenant, make sure that the eviction is also one lawful, and it should come into the agreement. Now, for example, in such a situation where the tenant had spent 6 months without clearing, and then what was in the agreement? At times, agreements are, a landlord may actually tell you, if you spend, let's say, 2 months without payment, then I'll definitely close. If it's a shop, they will tell you, I'll close the shop. If it's 1 month, that is in the agreement. And in most cases, as tenants get into these buildings, or whether it's a house, you always have it at the back of your mind that if I fail to pay within this period of time, then this is going to happen, or these are the repercussions I will face. So when you look at such situations, the eviction part is supposed to be lawful. But if it fails, then the landlord is supposed to pay damages as well as also pay compensation, which is equivalent to 3 months of rent payable. That is, for example, if a client has been, or a tenant has been paying you, let's say 500,000 monthly, then you've forcefully evicted them, then the chance is you're going to pay them 1.5 million Ugandan shillings. And then in case there are some damages to the property while the eviction was taking place, then you're also likely, the tenant is likely to account for that, and then you have to pay.
And then you have to pay. Now, the other thing that landlords usually ask for is a security deposit. And some people sometimes have argued that this is illegal. Why am I paying rent for 3 or 4 months and then you're asking for a security deposit? Is there an allowance for this in the Act?
For the it is for
the security deposit.
It is an allowance that gives room for the landlords.
Yes.
Yeah. When you look at the situation to do with the security deposit, it actually is stipulated to give room for the landlords to at least, let's say, have, it is more sort of a security part of it, a bit of a collateral, just like when they are supposed to be giving you, where a tenant is supposed to also give in the details to do with documents, their documentations, and then also looking through to do with your national ID, your documents, and the same. So when you look at the situation here in relation to
security deposit,
the security deposit, you get to look at the fact that landlords are required to give you notice of 90 days in case of rent increment. Then there is under fixed term tenancies, rent stays the same until the term is finished. I don't know if Chantal does have that written over the UST, over the security deposit, to clearly help me with the same.
The part that is in here is that the new landlord will inherit the security deposit in the premise if the premise is sold out. So there is actually a need for the security deposit when you are making payments. The reason as to why these people charge security deposit is some of the tenants cause damage to the property. So that security deposit is what is used by the landlords to make repairs and maintenance for those premises. So at the end of the day, you realize that when you are paying your rent, the security deposit has to be part of the rent you are paying.
My question here is, how much is the security deposit supposed to be?
The security deposit is supposed to be not more than the rent you are paying. So if I'm paying 500,000
per month,
yes, my security deposit is paid once, and it's not supposed to be more than 500,000.
Okay, so it should be the equivalent.
It should be the equivalent of the rent.
One month's rent.
Yes.
That is why even the new landlord inherits the security deposit.
Yes.
So the person who takes over property,
inherits it.
I don't have
they're
to.
not
I pay
supposed
it
to ask
once.
you to give it, because okay, I understand
again,
that.
which is a protection to the tenant here again, if you're to look at it. The mere
Okay.
fact that if a new landlord comes and buys property, then they will not have to ask it from you.
Okay, so now when it comes to things like subletting, I'm sure all of us have gone to a shop and you find different people in a shop probably selling different merchandise, and in some cases paying the same merchandise. And it is usually known that one tenant went to the landlord to collect rent, but rather to get the premise and pay the rent. But this tenant has now sublet the shop to different people. Is that legally allowed?
It is legally allowed as long as the landlord is in the know.
Okay.
Now this is when we go back down to what you agree with, what you agree to with your landlord, because there are landlords who give you a tenancy agreement and they will tell you there is no subletting. It's stipulated in their contract or in their agreement. But where it is not stipulated and you are allowed, depending if it's a commercial building, in most cases they actually allow subletting.
Actually, I was coming to that. Is subletting for commercial buildings, or I have a home, it has 3 bedrooms, can I have tenants in my home?
In the home.
I think it
You have
happens
to inform
if
the
it is a
landlord.
residential place.
It happens. It happens if at all you've talked to the landlord, but most landlords are not comfortable with having their tenants, especially when it comes to rentals or residentials. Most of them are not of that idea of sub-renting or the subletting kind of situation. But also there's also a provision still with the law that tenants need to be informed before a visit from the landlord. That
How much time do they need?
It does. It is not stipulated on when, but there is always this abrupt kind of visits from the landlord who comes in to check in. And at times, according to the law, the landlord is supposed to send in a notice that maybe I'll come in tomorrow to check out on my property. Or let's say if at all it's a building and then you have over 5 tenants who are shop owners, you have to tell them, you have to notify them that you're coming, not to just abruptly come into the place tomorrow and then you shock them by your presence. A lot of things can happen during such a time, and that is why the law again here is protecting the tenant.
Actually, the law stipulates that the landlord should come in 20 hours after notice, like give your tenants 20 hours of notice that tomorrow
regardless
I'll be
of whether
in.
it's a visit or just an abrupt
20
appearance.
hours, don't just show up, because you've heard of stories of my landlord came when I'd cooked chicken.
Or when
It doesn't
you just
give you
bought a
time
car
to
and he thinks you have a lot of money.
a lot of money. So if you
so
give me 20 hours, I'll know not to cook chicken.
Or where to hide my new car.
Or where to hide your new car, so that the landlord doesn't say you bought a car and
now
yet you have my arrest.
let me increase the rent.
Yes. Anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, and I see your views coming through. Please continue to have this conversation with us. We are asking your thoughts, what your thoughts are on the ruling that landlords can now forcefully enter premises, their premises that are occupied by their tenants. Is this something you're comfortable with? Did the law overside with the landlords, or you think that this is actually a good thing, that everyone should be held accountable when it comes to rent, and of course when it comes to property and even areas thereof? I have a few comments coming through and I would like to share share some of these with you. And this is from Mugisha. He says, good morning, Najuma, Chantal, and Sonko. And thank you so much for watching, Mr. Mugisha. He says, previously, tenants had a protection bill saying that eviction should be done after 3 months of failure in rent payment, or if the landlord wants to use his house by breaking the agreement, he must give a tenant 3 months to prepare for the shifting. Is this still active? He's asking.
Yes, before, as the tenant, for the tenant to...
For the landlord, the 3 months notice before the tenant...
yes, it is active. It's stipulated in the law that it's 90 days. That before you evict a tenant, you're supposed to send a notice of 90 days. And he continues to say government should stop trusting judges because majority of them have chosen to support people with money and leave the poor behind. I don't know this to be true. I think sometimes, and by the way, when it comes to tenants, you were saying? But the ruling in such a situation, however much he's saying, was actually in favor of both parties, if you're to look at it. Because why would you stay in someone's property and spend 6 months without paying? It is a place of business. Because if the eviction, part of it had damages, the tenant was going to receive, you know, the damages as well, half fees in damages. But since the ruling was in favor of the landlord, then that means the tenant was supposed to evict or was supposed to leave the premises. He does raise something here which I don't think we have touched on. He says it's only landlord businesses that get money in advance, but other businesses, one needs to first work and get the money. I think his argument is about paying rent before you have started the month. Vis-a-vis paying rent after you've used you have, you know, finished the month. Well, I think is there an allowance for that? Of all the clauses I have seen and in the whole act, I've not seen anything that addresses advance payments to the landlords. And well, it goes back down to how good of a negotiator are you when it comes to convincing your landlord. And how willing is that landlord? Yes, because there's some who are actually who are considerate. You will let him know, listen, I'm a salary earner. I cannot pay you first January or by 5th, but I can pay you by 29th or 27th. And if you get to be in agreement with your landlord on the same, it usually works out. It goes back down to the agreements that you can have. But also for the landlords, I think even the landlords who are watching, they will still bear with me that at times why they ask for the advances because of matters to do with the security purposes. That you know you've just met this particular tenant for the first time, and you feel like to buy their trust, let them at least clear 2 months or 3 months. No, that's understandable, especially when you're just entering the premise. But imagine for continuity. Yes, continuity. Where someone says, where his argument comes. Yes, where the landlord says, okay, first you're going to pay me 4 months, but then again, after the 4 months are done, yes, you can pay one month or whichever months you want to clear, but they have to come in on the first day, latest the 5th day of the month. No, I think also meaning the month you're going to be in that house is paid for in advance. You get it? And that's the part that, you know, usually disturbs tenants. So I think the tenants need to build a serious rapport with the landlords. And like Chantal said, be a better negotiator. And of course, hope against hope that your landlord is understanding. And that's all that we could gather for you this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Up next is Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express.
Founding of NAM. The non-aligned movement emerged in 1961 during the Belgrade Conference in Yugoslavia, a historic event that marks the coming together of leaders from newly independent nations seeking to navigate the complex geopolitical landscape of the Cold War. As a response, NAM aimed to provide a platform for countries to assert their autonomy without aligning with either superpower.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on Public Broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the Parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. I'm Irene Alenamisang, and this is the GMU Tourism Express. I'm always here every morning talking about Uganda's tourism, that is the travel news, activities, destinations, the trends, like everything that you would need to know about Uganda's tourism. And one of the reasons why I'm always here to remind you about Uganda's tourism is because we want you to have tourism in your normal conversations. Probably you're just back to your workplace. This is your second day after a long leave for the festive season. And you're wondering, what would I be talking to my friends, maybe on your lunch breaks? We need you people to be talking about Uganda's tourism destinations. Share. I want to bump into bank tellers maybe when they're not very busy, and I hear them talking about maybe CP Falls, talking about Maction Falls National Park. Like, we need these conversations all through. Happy New Year to everyone who is watching, but especially those people that are just trying to click into their normal routines because they're just back to their workplaces. They're trying to click. What should I do in the first minutes? Maybe like you're just clicking into the whole New Year setup. Like, Happy New Year, guys. And today in the travel news, I have something very special for you. And you would be wondering, why was it in the travel news? But in the travel news, first, we are talking about the first son. The first son, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, had a visit to Maction Falls National Park during the festive season. Now, this is an amazing step for the country because we need to have more of the prominent figures in the country visiting different destinations. And okay, yes, there is a thing about private trips. You go for a private trip with your family or with your colleagues, but when you come up and share, just like the general did on his X page, you motivate more people to tour these places. You motivate your rich people, you motivate your top figures in the country, and this is what we need. Unlike before, when most of the prominent people in the country used to go abroad, they used to go to Dubai, they used to go to France. And yes, we know because we see these photos, somehow they link up, but this is what we need in such festive seasons. Maybe the Easter holidays. Why don't you carry your family and go to maybe Queen Elizabeth National Park, go to Bwindi, go to Chibale, like tour our very own places. Remember the country's national brand is Explore Uganda, and this is uniquely ours. That is uniquely yours. So every time you're thinking about a trip, every time you're thinking about maybe having more time with your family outside your normal homes, let's explore Uganda. And more especially, let's have our prominent figures so that we can increase the economy and also the cash flow in our country. But every time you move abroad, you're taking the money outside. Yet we have Ugandans that would have benefited in your trips when you go around Uganda. So it was a plus for the first son to go to Action Falls National Park with his family. And they say that Nel Safari Lodge, like in his Twitter space, in his X post, he was very clear. For him, he prefers to call the park with its local name, which is Kabalega National Park. But he also said that Uganda is underrated to be called the Pearl of Africa. It should be called the jewel of the world. Like, why would someone say that? It's because he has seen the beauty that Uganda has, from the lush greenery in Buindi, the beautiful landscapes around Rwenzori, the beautiful shores on Lake Victoria. Like, Uganda is amazing. And indeed, I feel, yes, it should be called the jewel of the world. What do you call Uganda for you? And that is it that we had in the travel news. And just diving into the travel attraction that we have today. Today we are talking about, I don't know how I should say, but we are talking about something that is very beautiful and unique. And we are talking about chimp trekking in Uganda. And now Uganda has a very unique ability in offering its wildlife safaris. Just after you've had maybe a gorilla trekking experience, you would think that you've had it all about Uganda. But now they are the chimps. And chimps are one of the most fascinating primates that you'll ever meet in the wild. Like, chimp trekking takes you into the world of chimps in their world. Like, you get to get up close and you get passionate, you get like that romantic encounters with the chimps. You get very close. Like, it is amazing just to be around these fascinating apes. You would be thinking that you're just around humans who just don't speak, because the way they carry on their lives, the way they love each other, like the chimps just mirror the humans, not only with the DNA, but also their normal ways of life. If you want a chimp that is maybe showing love to its baby chimp, you would be mesmerized by this gesture. If you see maybe a mischief, like from the sibling, feeling bad that the mother is loving the other baby like so much, you know, it is amazing. And these are the things that we have in our normal lives. So when you want to see the chimps, most of the tourists engage in chimp trekking. And chimp trekking takes you like real close to these animals. You spend like an hour in their sight just watching them. But walking in the forest, led by a ranger, you start hearing the chimp sounds like from a distance. Just the sounds, man, they're very amazing. Like, you just need to be in one of the destinations where you can see the chimps. And in Uganda, you can see these chimps in Chibale Forest National Park. It is called the world's primate capital. Like, it has the biggest population of chimps in the whole world. The population of chimps in Chibale can never be found anywhere else. You can also see the chimps or do chimp trekking in Action Falls National Park. Most of you know this park only for the falls and game safaris, but you can also do chimp trekking in Action Falls, in Budongo Forest. Then you can also do chimp trekking in Queen Elizabeth National Park in the Chambura Gorge. It is usually even nicknamed the Valley of the Chimps. Other places where you can see chimps in Uganda, you can see chimps at Uwek, you can see chimps at Ngamba Island, and the politics of the chimps at Ngamba Island is extremely incredible. Like, you just need to be here. These chimps have names, and when you reach there, you find one that is isolated because maybe it lost a political battle. You find others that are ganging up against the leader. Like, they have politics and they have hierarchies. They form their communities and they have super hierarchies. Well, in the travel tip today, we have a very simple one still, just like we always give you simple travel tips. As you're traveling, make sure that you have some local cash with you. Like, if you're coming to Uganda, at the airport, there are several forex bureaus. As you're traveling maybe through the capital to go to other places of the country, make sure that you do some exchange and have some local cash with you. Probably you'd want to buy something or give a tip, you have local cash with you. Thank you so much. Catch you tomorrow.
To our viewers, wherever you are catching the show from. I'm Joram Paul Sonko. It's Good Morning Uganda. It's now time for us to check in what is making headlines from the world of business, and of which we start with the NAM and G77 summits. But pretty much looking at the idea and the essence of the investment opportunities that will arise from the SEM. The investment bit of it is highly interesting when you come to think of the private sector in Uganda and how prepared the private sector across the region is in regards to tapping into the opportunities that will arise from the delegates that will be making their way to Uganda as the summits kick off. Well, looking at it, the Uganda Investment Authority targets the NAM and the G77 summits in Kampala starting from the 15th to the 23rd of February as a very huge opportunity for that particular time to see that the investment in Uganda grows, not only within the country, but also looking at how fast the private sector can expand generally. Now, the Uganda Investment Authority board chair, that is Morrison Rakakamba, told UBC that Uganda will showcase several business and investment opportunities during the time and the aftermath of the summits. Now, in 2024, Uganda Investment Authority prides having won awards in 2023 and ranked the best investment destination by the best investment catalysts in the world. And of course, looking at some of the matters as to why Uganda was amongst the key analysts looked at as a world's investment destination. You look at the security, the nature of business within the country, the mere fact that it's still having virgin opportunities in most of the business sectors. And then also looking at the situation, the board chairperson, Morrison Rakakamba, wants the achievements used to talk business and take maximum advantage of the two summits that will be in the country. Now, when you look at last year, over $10 billion of foreign direct investment was recorded, with investors targeting to reinvest into Uganda. So when you look at that, imagine such a time when these particular summits are taking place, then that will see an increase or an increment to maybe $20 billion for the calendar year 2024. Now, January 17th, summits earmarked for investment agencies of East Africa to highlight the investment opportunities that will as well be available. Then the subsequent hosting of NAM Summit on the theme of deepening cooperation for shared global influence, and the G77 Plus on the theme leaving no one behind, scheduled for January 20th to 23rd. 2024 will emphasize Uganda's diplomatic standing. That one, which will actually be focused on leaving no one behind, will ideally attract quite a number of private sector players. That will also include an exhibition at the Kampala Serena Hotel, where most of the businesses within the country and investors will be showcasing various things in the world of business. And not only that, looking at the services, looking at products, and we also expect quite a number of business delegates that will be making their way into the country. So when you look at the opportunities that the G77 and NAM summits provide for Uganda, quite many. And if you're a business-minded kind of person, this is a time when you put yourself in a situation of looking at the opportunities that will avail itself from these particular summits. So as the layman Ugandan says, okukubo luseke, this particular one can be international luseke for any business person out there. Now, looking further into the NAM routes, with only 6 days to the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit in Munyonyo, Uganda is all set to host her guests. And the Non-Aligned Movement, which consists of over 120 countries across Africa, Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Now, Uganda's role in this particular one is to underscore its growing influence on the global stage, but also to ensure that it creates room for a memorable summit this particular time. When it comes to making sure that you have the opportunity to have all these particular delegates coming into your country, you always have to make sure that you leave a mark that will definitely be remembered, and that this is where the country is in the same. And so is the business community, because the business community is looking forward to making sure that they achieve maximum profit from the same, and also creating room for the growth of their own businesses by attracting various partnerships and various investments that will be coming into the situation. Now, a word on the streets with different NAM route users, and they have their views in relation to what they expect from the SEM, because when you look at the fact that it will have some traffic disturbances here and there once the summits kick off, but also there are those who are prepared to earn a living off the summits. Those who are directly into digital marketing, we have people who are directly into service provision, and many of those also in the hospitality industry who will be benefiting deeply from this particular summit. And of course, the summit's theme is deepening cooperation for shared global affluence, and the Kampala summit is perceived by experts as a reflection of Africa's growing influence on the international stage. How prepared are we? Yes, we are. The question is, how shall we be able to execute these particular summits that will be kicking off next week? Well, now, lastly, from Business Update this morning, let's look at the Forex market, see how the market was faring by close of business Monday. Now, the US dollar did open at 3,788.17. For those who were buying and selling was at 3,798.17 shillings. And the US dollar by midday was buying at 3,793.21 while selling at 3,803.21. And closing time saw the US dollar go for 3,802.58 shillings while selling at 3,812.58. The Great Britain pound was buying at 4,832.31 while selling at 4,845.02. The euro was buying at 4,160.02 while selling at 4,170.96. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 24.06 shillings while selling at 24.13 shillings. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.51 shillings while selling at 1.51 shillings as well. The South African rand, on the other hand, was buying at 203.13 shillings while selling at 203.66 shillings. That is how you will definitely find the Forex market as of this morning, Tuesday. But then we shall be back tomorrow, or I will be back tomorrow to give you more details in regards to the Forex market and more from the business perspective. That is it for the GMU Business Update this morning. Coming up is the traffic update with Olive Monica Najuma.
Thank you so much for staying with us from the hour of 6:30 up until this minute. It is 10 minutes to 8 a.m. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I'm here to share traffic updates with you to help you move along as you go to your place of work and business. Now, we will be looking at the route from Busega and all through Natete to see how you can get to different parts of the city, and of course different parts of suburbs that are surrounding the central business district. Now, around Busega roundabout, that's where we are picking it up from, going along into Natete to see how best you can move this morning. Around Busega roundabout, I see a few red zones coming through from this area, as it comes off the express highway, you know, the Kampala Entebbe Express Highway, and where it joins Busega. Around that area, there is a bit of a red zone that is bringing in traffic through the Masaka Road and Busega roundabout, somewhere around the markets. Now, around this area, we see orange zones which are indicative of slow movement of traffic. Now, moving along still on the same road, we see orange zones along this road and a few green zones here and there. So for some parts you will be able to move smoothly because there is no traffic, but then you will be delayed by the orange zones that we are seeing up ahead, which indicate that traffic jam is starting to build up in this area. Now, there is this intersection that has Natete and of course Nakauka Road joining Natete, and of course going through. In this intersection, you're going to encounter orange zones that will slow you down for a bit. But the good news is that as you move along through Natete, you're going to find that there is an entire green zone, which is indicative of smooth flow of traffic. As you can see on your screen, it means that you should be able to move for a big part with smooth flow of traffic and won't be held up so much on the road. And continuing ahead still, as Natete joins Wankulukuku Road, we see a little bit of traffic there at the intersection, and of course crossing through as we still go along, there is a smooth flow of traffic. Now, I see some bit of an orange zone along Kabusu Road as it breaks off from this Natete Road, and I would like for us to follow Kabusu Road and see how it joins areas like Rubaga. Now, I see Bazeketa has smooth flow of traffic, and still moving along where Kabusu Road joins Nabunya Road, there is smooth flow of traffic. Now, coming to Rubaga Road, still there is smooth flow of traffic over there, and when I look at the surrounding roads like Butikiro Road, it looks pretty good this morning, and of course Kabaka Njagala also looks pretty good. Apart from a little bit of traffic around the Kabaka Njagala roundabout, you should be able to move smoothly. Still moving along Rubaga Road, I see a few orange zones over there, but nothing intense to worry about, and still moving along Rubaga Road. I see this section that has Rubaga Road where it joins Musaja Alumbwa Road. There you will experience a little bit of a red zone as these two roads connect, bringing in a bit of traffic jam. And of course, going ahead where Rubaga Road joins roads like Old Kampala Road and Namirembe Road, you're going to encounter an orange zone in this section, which is going to slow you down for a bit. And moving ahead still, let's look at Namirembe Road and see how it's moving and going into places like Blue Room, and of course continuing and joining with Make Road. From the start where Namirembe Road joins Rubaga Road, I see an orange zone over there, but it's not for a long time. There is also a green zone that indicates that you should be able to move favorably. But as you continue with this road, especially where Martin Road and Make Road join with Namirembe Road, there you're going to encounter a bit of stretch that has a traffic jam. Actually, Martin Road, most of its branch has a traffic jam as it joins Make Road, and then Make Road feeds into Namirembe Road, and here you're going to be delayed for a bit of time. Also, where Namirembe Road joins Allen Road, you will still encounter traffic for a bit. But Nashivuba Road looks okay this morning. There is smooth flow of traffic in this area, and of course Benchwanka Street also has smooth flow of traffic as you move along. Now, looking at other areas like Barton Street, Wilson Road, you will encounter a bit of traffic jam on these two roads, and that will slow you down if you're moving to William Street. The traffic jam that is coming through from Barton Street and William Street is going to delay you for a bit of time, and as William Street joins other roads like Other roads like Kampala Road, you're going to still encounter a bit of traffic in this section, and this traffic jam also feeds into Kampala Road. So if these are the areas you're going to, you should be advised to plan your route carefully. Also, Kampala Road around Kampala Boulevard, I see huge traffic jam in this area, both sides going out of town and of course coming into town. And Pilkington Road also has an orange zone, which indicates that there is a slow movement of traffic in this area. And if you're coming off Kampala Road to join Entebbe Road, just after the interchange, you're going to find a little bit of traffic there, but the rest of Kampala Road, as it comes through from Ginger Road, has smooth flow of traffic, so you should be able to move favorably and of course speedy, but not too fast, because we do not want you to harm yourself or other road users. Well, that's all that we had for you for traffic updates. I'm Olive Monica Najuma.
Of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Junko.
Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Junko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Key organs. The non-aligned movement operates through key organs such as the Summit Conference, ministerial meetings, and the Coordinating Bureau. These structures facilitate diplomatic collaboration among member states, providing forums for discussions on common challenges and the formulation of collective responses. Support to the United Nations. The non-aligned movement consistently supported the United Nations as a platform for addressing global issues. The movement emphasizes the importance of multilateralism and diplomatic solutions, aligning with the United Nations mission to promote international cooperation and maintain peace and security. Membership growth. Since its establishment in 1961, with 25 member countries, the non-aligned movement has witnessed consistent growth, now encompassing over 122 nations. This expansion underscores NAM's enduring appeal, attracting a diverse array of countries seeking to maintain a non-aligned stance. Over the decades, the movement has evolved into a global forum, providing smaller and newly independent nations a collective platform on the international stage. Disarmament advocacy. The non-aligned movement's advocacy for disarmament, particularly its opposition to nuclear weapons, gained prominence during the critical moments, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The movement's commitment to a world free of nuclear threats underscores its dedication to global peace and security. Economic focus. In response to the era of economic globalization, the non-aligned movement has expanded its focus beyond political ideals to advocate for a more equitable international economic order. The movement recognizes the need for economic cooperation and development initiatives that benefit all member states, particularly those in the developing world.
A lovely morning to you. In case you didn't begin the show with us, thank you so much for making us a TV of your choice. We appreciate and keeping it on UBC TV. I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. What a cold morning. I don't know which part of Kampala you are among the 5 divisions that make up Kampala, but for Central here, more so around Nile Avenue, well, the weather is not that very friendly. So in case you're coming to Kampala, within other parts of the metropolitan, ensure you have a raincoat, an umbrella. If you have infants, ensure you've left them in safe hands. They are warm because January seems to still be having some bit of showers here and there, no matter most of the times, it's a dry month, but maybe it's only dry in the pockets. But as the weather, it seems we are going to be getting some bit of rain. Now, this morning, we are going to be discussing issues regarding security. We had peaceful celebrations of Christmas, New Year's. We had a very big conference in this country that brought together speakers of countries that were formerly colonies of the Commonwealth and presiding officers. A speak resort Munyonyo, and what a success it was. Now, come Monday, we are expecting to host another big conference in this country that will run from the 15th to the 24th, and that is the non-allied movement, and also, of course, that is the G77 plus. But joining me on set to discuss these issues, I have the Commissioner of Police in charge of community policing, Anatoli Muletera. Very smart and looking healthy. Morning and welcome to the show.
Robert.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
You know, I left you in 2023.
And I'm in 2024.
Thank you for being compliant. Good morning, our esteemed listeners and viewers all out there. Happy New Year 2024. And wish you have a program.
Now, to begin with, first, in your own view, what do you make of the current situation when it comes to security of our country?
That kind of a question would be desirable for a government spokesperson, for which I am not. And I don't want you to raise my portfolio before I reach there.
But I pray for you to get there.
Thank you very much. I want to discuss the security within my realm as a commissioner for community policing. Fellow Ugandans all out there, the English have a saying that opportunity meets those that are prepared. Opportunity meets those that are prepared. You cannot desire to have rain when you don't have gullies to collect rain, nor even have a water point for collecting that water, or even desire to harvest when you don't have a prepared garden for that. It would be wishful thinking. What am I trying to compare in that kind of scenario is that in the event of the international conferences that Uganda has held, we must be prepared to explore the opportunities that come along with those such conferences. And part of that is because of our readiness based on three things. One, the hospitality of Ugandans all out there. Two, the security situation where we are calm, we are peaceful, and eventually the police as being the lead agency is very well supported by other security agencies, and therefore our visitors during the Commonwealth Speakers and Presiding Officers Conference left very joyful and very happy. And I want to tell you that some of them are still even around just simply because of the pearl of Africa's hospitality and the peaceful enjoyment. I therefore want to invoke fellow Ugandans so that we can consolidate and tap this. You know, these conferences come with various opportunities, and that is what I was talking about. Opportunity meets those that are prepared. Now, some people view opportunities in terms of direct money, but no, there are intrinsic opportunities that come along with these conferences. One, directly there is money, but at the same time, individuals, for example, the tax operators, the Uber, get money from that. The hospital industry, such as the hotels, get money. The tourist sector get money. Those are the roadside. I want to tell you that you can imagine the speakers and other guests that came around wanted to taste the local dish of the country, the ruombo, the buffet in terms of amaroka manyigi. So all of those are opportunities. Now at a larger sector is that directly or indirectly we get revenue from these people, which is translated into your salary, my salary, translated in my uniform and any other whatever, the road, and therefore the growth, the general growth of the GDP. So I want to call upon fellow Ugandans.
So you have both direct, indirect, long-term, short-term.
Yes, but all of this is attained as a result of consolidated effort of all. One, based on teamwork. Our teamwork, our reception, our welcoming, kind of gesture, everywhere. So it is not an issue of the police or government, it is an issue of Ugandans. So fellow Ugandans, please, I'm calling upon all of you, let's maintain. And the one coming is a very big one. We are anticipating to host over 100 countries here. So imagine of having a one-stop center collection of countries. If we only had around 40 countries that came. Now about this one. So this is a very big one. And the long-term benefits are enormous. So I want to call upon Ugandans, please, let's appreciate this. Let's all be marketeers to this. And let's know that the preserve and pride of it, this is all ours. As in terms of security, definitely we are all abreast. We are conscious about some of the threats that we are going through. And as always, we have always been thwarting those threats with your efforts. So fellow Ugandans, please, support us, we support you, we build Uganda.
Now, Afande, this comes at a tricky time. We have the ADF. We've had a number of incidents where security organs have come up to describe these as ADF being behind them. It also comes at a time when we have quite a number of crimes. We recently, that was on Tuesday last week, when we had the attempted murder of Pastor Bujingo that led to his bodyguard losing his life. We've seen the district health officer, that is Masindi, who was stabbed to death. The number of incidents, and all these still happen in communities. Now, as you who is in charge of community policing, we know police, you don't work in isolation, but you work with the community giving you information. Unfortunately, in all these cases, you find that at the end of the day, community participation in averting crime is a bit limited. And when these things happen, today police has put 20 million if you have information. What is lacking? Is it that it seems we are more doing surgical operations than successfully preventing? Yet one of the roles that police has is to detect and prevent. Now this post-mortem way of we are investigating, we are coming back with reports. Remember, when you have these guests, they still read what is happening, the papers will publish these stories, we'll talk about this.
Robert, I know you are, one time, I don't know whether you still maintain what you told me, that you are saved.
I'm a born-again Christian.
Okay, thank you. But I want to remind you about the Bible. In the creation, the Lord God intended good for man. And therefore, he placed him in the Garden of Eden. And while in the Garden of Eden, man made a choice to do what he did. Did that stop God from from loving man?
It didn't.
Did it stop man from sinning? You know, I'm trying to bring that analogy in your mind to know that people make whatever they do because of choice. And at the end of it all, what they aim at benefiting from it. You know, crime is committed out of the desire to make choice, and especially the gains. And if you are a scholar of criminology, you'll understand that the precipitating factors to committing crime are the benefits that come out of it. And two, people don't commit crime because they don't know. They commit because they know, and they also explore avenues of how they can be able to defeat. And that's why you realize that as the police, we are in a balanced position where the suspect is brought to you and the victim is brought to you. So both of them are protected by the law. So when you are an umpire, you must always explore to see how to bring up the balance in that matter. Coming to what you are saying, you are combining two categories of crimes. The incident of, may the good Lord give eternal rest to Dr. Biriga, on whose innocent life was taken by those who may have thought that he deserved so. And this is a very gruesome instance which we must all stand to condemn. Now, two things you mentioned, two types of crimes you mentioned. One is the crime of the incident of ADF. That is treated as terrorists because these acts are acts that are perpetrated by individuals who specifically target innocent people, victims who cannot be able to protect themselves, and take them unawares. While the incident of Dr. Biriga, the late Dr. Biriga, is an example of armed thuggery. People who are driven by the desire, and you can even see that some of the pinpointers of the commission of such a crime are things that are pointing towards material gains. And these are the issues I've talked about of benefits. Whereas things of terrorists, you know, the motives are speculated, either political, religious, beneficial, economic and the like. So, but nonetheless, what you need to understand is that the police mandate does not in any way unwaver in executing what it's supposed to do. Like What I'm doing here is an issue of preventing the occurrence of possible criminal acts there.
Now, just to get you on that, when we talk about, yes, this is ADF, then these are thugs that could have stabbed and then killed, one thing that happens, it goes to your docket. These things happen in communities. They never happen en masse. Now, government security agencies may be good in protecting Munyonyo, the country is at peace, there is no war, but these small pockets of crime, maybe a VIPs walking around, they fall in a trap of such that we said, who are looking for material gains. Maybe they want a camera, they want a laptop from this person. But the question is, they're happening in community. And this is directly to your docket. What happened to preventative arrests? Does this only apply to politicians? What happened to getting to preventing these issues from happening, rather than saying, yes, they have happened, we are going to be investigating? Today, when we look at the terrorists, the various, these are people in community, they even use improvised devices, and all these are funded. We are wondering, people will tell you today there are some streets in this city that are not safe. There are some places are not very far from Kampala that as long as it clocks 10, you shouldn't be moving around that. So where is that information? What are you doing? Are you sleeping on job?
One, I want to demystify your last statement, that there are places in Kampala where people don't go. No, that is not true. What we have are black spots. Black spots are places where incidences of criminality happens, but the criminals are not in charge. The only thing is that timely information is not given to security organs. Therefore, it is not something that is perpetual.
Have you ever heard of a place called Lost City?
Lost City, where is it?
Around Chibuye.
Where? I don't want you to bring
I can mention some of these.
No. What do you do? Give me the real name of the area which is known. Lost City could be your city because you want it to be called so. But we don't have the political demarcations or even the local government demarcations. Do we have a place gazetted as local as
a place around Salama Road, Kulekana?
But I stay on Kulekana Road. I stay there. And I'm able to move.
You're not an ordinary person.
No. I know.
An average Ugandan.
No. Well, let me tell you, Robert, don't divert the listeners and viewers from the core. We are saying, do we have some instances of black spots, instances where crimes take advantage of either the darkness or lack of visibility of
police presence. You also include that.
No, not police. The security organs and even the combination and support from the community. Now, it is you who has given me that name, and I'm going to explore more. Thank you for giving me that name of Lost City, and it happens that it is in my area where I stay. But you see, you are so much diverting me from what you have presented. What are we doing to ensure that the safety and security of our visitors and Ugandans is upheld? One, it takes two to entangle. To entangle. And you see, let Robert not be able to mislead our listeners by kind of focusing that it is the role of security agencies to do that alone. We are the lead. We are the lead, but we must work together. And that's why I'm saying it takes two to entangle. Two, the incidences of security has 3 or 4 rings. There is what we call personal security.
True.
Personal. That is the individual security arrangement around you as an individual. Let me take an example, Mimleterwa. How conscious am I that security belongs to me, and therefore I must be able to be conscious of what I'm doing, how I'm doing, where I'm doing, with whom I'm doing, and at what time I'm doing it. That is personal. As long as fellow Ugandans are not conscientized of knowing that, please, security belongs to you as an individual. And when you leave individualism and interact with others, it becomes communal security or community security. And that is the second ring.
So the first is personal.
Personal.
I shouldn't assume that Uganda is so safe that I can be anywhere at any time.
That is it. And not only that, how are you moving? With whom are you moving? Now, the other element where you want to presume that the police can be able to do magic is when you are moving, but you are not involving the police into knowing how you are moving. You are not involving the security organs into knowing how you are moving. That's very important. If you at all feel that at your personal level, there are instances of cracks within your security ring, inform the security, inform the police. And that's why things are now simplified. Please, fellow Ugandans, we have an app on our smartphones, these smartphones, an app called UPF Mobile. On this UPF Mobile, we have all contacts of the police installations, police stations, police headquarters, contacts of people who matter in police who can be able to support you and therefore can be able to call. We feel that as an individual, when you have a smartphone and you click on that police mobile and tap, either you want the number of the DPC, you want the number of Mleterwa, you want the number of whatever, the number of the police station, you want to report lost and found, you want to check on your EPS, all of that information is a one-stop center on your phone. Please, you use this device to support us and ensure that we cooperate and safeguard you. 2, we want to call upon local leaders all out there. Please, and that's the reason why I'm saying it takes to entangle. You have a role to play. First of all, the Constitution provides for us to work together. Article 17. Article 212D for the police. Then when you go to the Criminal Procedure Code, when you go to the Local Government Act, security is a preserve for all of us. This instance of assuming that no, you must not be able to cooperate with that, let me tell you. And by the way, it is honest truth. You are my friend. Do I know where I stay?
Should you know?
Why not? How do we work together when I don't know where you stay? Why don't I know any threat that may be able to affect you? So, in instances where we must be able to cooperate, we must at all times share
information. Because that's a security motive that security way that people should not just know where you stay.
No, but I'm saying I'm your friend.
Yeah, you're my friend, I don't deny that. But that is for
that one, leave it for your enemy. But for me, who is your friend? Unless you cosmetically apply it to me. But if it is true...
That is offset, that is offset.
So I want... Now, I'm bringing that analogy. That please, work together. Work together. You see, many of us want to bring things... You see, even in the Bible, when Cain killed Abel, after killing Abel, in chapter 4 of Genesis, the Lord God appeared to Cain and asked him, where is your brother?
Am I my brother's keeper?
Very good. And that is the attitude we tend to exhibit. When things have happened, like you are asking me, should I know? Now you are saying, should I know, because you are now joyful, you are now happy. But the time any distress happens, you feel that military is very relevant, and therefore you should be able to know. So please, I want to call upon you, Ugandans. Yes, have trust in us. Definitely, I must also acknowledge that we may have some police officers who cannot be trusted. But we are also human beings. If the Lord God had angels, but even out of the angels there was Lucifer, what about the policemen? who are not born by the police,
Afande,
but they are your children.
That said, we need to work together.
Very good.
The public and the police, because police cannot work in isolation. No doubt about that. And you're having visitors where you should ensure that they get the best reception in terms of not only enjoying our good weather, which is God-given, the good food, the luxurious reception, all that, but they stay in a safe country. Now, one of the commonest crimes that we are having of late may not be the serious so much, but these particular groups of 18 and above that move in any particular area. And the funny thing about this is these reign and stay within communities. We've had many successful stories of we had the Commonwealth, Chogama, we can talk about, but still, much as security is at high alert in guarding terrorism, they have the VIP protection, but we've always had, and I know police, after such conference, sometimes when you go to police stations, you don't miss someone who talks about being being snatched, a group of young boys surrounding and trying to take this and that. How do we deal with this particular spate of crime?
You know, there is what they call a bigali, a bitalina mupira. Bigali, tebina mupira, tebina kengere, tebina mafuta.
Even on 31st, they racked those boys.
Bigali.
Created havoc.
Bigali, tebina coach. But you see, let me tell you, and this is a moral question which we need all to focus on. Those children who are committing crimes are our own children. You, Nyonyintoni Robert Chirabo, woke up at one time and dreamt like producing a child. And you are prayerful every time the Lord God to give you a child. After producing your child or your children, you abrogate your responsibility and now push it to government. It's quite unfortunate. The raising, rearing, nurturing of children is a combination of responsibility. First of all, the principle in this regard is a parent. You see, I give you a scenario of my age. Even at my age, because my mother is still alive, she regards me as a child. And all the time, she calls me and says, Muleterwa, where are you? That's a very fundamental question. It is a question depicting to establish my safety by my mother. How many of you all out there call and ask your children, where are you? What are you doing? When are you coming back? With whom are you staying? All of that you leave to the security. Let me ask you, how many of you are registered with the security to know where you are? How many of you stay with the security to know where you are? How many of you have ever been able to register with us, to declare with us the number of children you'll be able to produce so that now we take care of your children? Now, there are four primary institutions that are supposed to look after the children. One, the family, the parents. Two, the LOC. In the Local Government Act, and I mean particularly Children's Act, it is the responsibility of every vice chairperson, and I presume you are a vice chairperson by looks. You seem to be a vice chairperson of your area. You have the responsibility to look after children who are below 18 years. Two, it is the responsibility of every youth secretary on the LOC committee to look at and be able to communicate and be able to share and be able to mobilize youth under his docket. Why? It's not only developmental, but also to rally them on security. How many of you leave that? You only wait to criticize what the police is doing. The police has arrested youths. The police. How many of you have conducted and done your responsibility? Now you are here lamenting. Yes, it is good if you are lament for a good cause. But it's not good for you to continue heaping blames on us. It is not good for you to continue running away from your responsibility. Definitely, as police, we do the following. One, we do what I'm doing, mobilization. And I'm doing it to you, all Ugandans, to know that we are there for you and we must work with you. Two, we conduct operations. But those operations are not enough as long as children are not nurtured by their own parents. Three, we call upon the local leaders everywhere. Please, these are the people they are your voters. These are your supporters. Don't only look at condemning them in this kind of whatever. But four, you're trying to insinuate that, when we have these conferences, police are not there. No way. Police are everywhere. Have you ever come to a police station and found it closed?
Never.
So, why do you now want to tell the people and viewers there that because there are conferences, so we shall not be there? We are there. Please, we are there and we shall be able to meet our task, our mandate. What I want to call upon you is that LOCs do what is within your mandate. And you see,
but also, usually, whenever we have senior police officers and people from government, they talk about this office of the LC, well knowing the challenges it has, very under-facilitated, if at all given any, from government. It has all sorts of challenges. Yet you keep on referring to it as a powerful office that has a lot of obligations. Today, a lot of cases that by law are supposed to be handled by LCs. Police has taken over them. You've rendered it that office. I don't remember when any case is reported to police, an officer says this is an LC case. It's been left there. So light. When we talk about registering people in communities, ensuring have community policing, very effectiveness, and involving the LC, this is an office that anyone can bypass at any level. Its authority ceases even to be there.
Can you give me, in your own view, because you are a journalist and you tend to carry out research, can you give me just one example of any institution that you think because it is not funded and therefore people have run away from there? Let me give you a scenario. There is domestic violence in families. Have men and women stopped marrying?
No.
Do you mean to say, as you came here, everything is well at your home? Do you mean to say your wife will now chase you from the home because you have not left there with... You could have even run away without breakfast. You could have even run away when the child is sick. You see, let me tell you, when we talk
to come to work,
when we have challenges, there are opportunities in everything.
Yes.
Do you want to tell me that there is an LOC who has ever resigned because the offices are under-facilitated? Give me, if you ever, give me one. One who has said, the office is not.
They are loyal to their voters.
I want to tell you, terms and conditions apply to everyone. When you desire to join the police, the terms and conditions apply to when I joined. Those individuals you see, every time when their term is expiring, they are in anxiety. Now, government has extended. So why don't they prove worthy to what they are supposed to do? They entered, I don't want us to be diversionary all the time.
No, we are looking at the foundations. Anatoly, let's be realistic.
No,
also.
We are realistic.
Let's be realistic here. That for effective policing, we have the LC as the first office because it has almost Secretary for Defense, Youth, Children. It's a government of its just at the bottom line there. And even it feeds so much into your work and helps you so much because the LC will know people within their areas. If they're empowered and they have the right and they have the power to do so. Today, a commissioner comes. I don't know if you're registered at your LC. You know, if he knows your name and you're in the LC books, a commissioner comes, will not even bother, because this office has been diluted. It has lacked registers. Anyone previous, you couldn't come in a village and you're not registered. These children we are talking about, the Bigali, Chifesi, B13, Kakora, and all that, could maybe not be a challenge. But because even where they had some bit of ability to control, it has been taken. Who now goes to LC? People run to police, and there are cases that police also is not supposed, that are cases for the LC. But you find a police officer busy handling that case to its end.
No.
So this office, we expect much from it in averting and preventing crime. But we've not given it.
Now, three things you need to from this to know is that every job has its own terms and conditions. When I joined police, one of the terms I got to know is that I must be available 24 hours, 7 days a week. 2, that I must be there every time when my boss requires me and be in the community. 2, that as a policeman, I will never be subversive against my own government and my institution. And 3, that I will never be able to cause a mutiny. That's why for you are there talking, the police is this, the police is this. These are the terms and the conditions for which, part of them, for which as police we know. Now, one time I was in China, and in China, I met with Japanese. You know, China was one time a Japanese colony. And it was not until 1940-something when they overthrew the emperorship there. That's the reason why you hear of the communist revolution in China. So when we, for our comparative whatever, the dual learning, we met with some Japanese. They are extremely social. And while there, the woman became so close and asked me, "What do you do in Uganda?" I told her I'm a policeman. She said, "Oh, how is police?" I said, "Yeah, it's okay." She told me this. For us in China, I mean in Japan, we are careful. I mean, we look at the job first. The job what?
First.
The job first. Then what comes out of the job later on. Because without a job, you cannot talk of a salary. You cannot talk of transport. You cannot even have access like I have now. If it is not that I am a policeman, do you think I would be coming here? Would you get interest? How many who are not policemen that you invite at leisure and at free will like I am? So I take my job seriously. The other outcomes of what I get, that is inconsequential. So let's not divert the quarrel of the LOC from doing what they are supposed to do. Because at the end of it all, they decided to apply. Some of them even mortgage their wives to become LOCs. Others even mortgage their houses to become LOCs. Now you are here saying they are not getting salary. Are you one of their spokespersons? 2, the quarrel of LOC is community cohesion. Community cohesion. At that level, as a local leader, how can you keep the rest of your members united?
Here our concern is security.
Yes.
Unity, security.
That is because
how do you use this particular very core office in preventing? Today we look at preventing.
And that is very fundamental. Because at the end of it all, by the way, you cannot desire to milk a cow without feeding it. Let your impact as an LOC, as a policeman, be felt. Then you demand for better terms. You cannot in any way make the B13 thrives in your area, and you want to justify that that is the ground for which, but every other time, the Minister for Local Government, when he doesn't come to pronounce his position on LOC, you are there. So please, fellow Ugandans, LOC is a very, very important organ in as far as security is concerned. It is the fecundity of our security at that grassroots. When we talk about foundation security, it is based at that local level, for which you as an LOC is very, very paramount. Let's prevent together the creation of some of these youth. But sometimes you find that part of the individuals who precipitate this may be our own. They may be the policemen, they may be the local leaders.
Flying so much, but before I let you go, Afande Anatoli, let's also look at police relationship with the public and response at the same time. You've given us an app to use and all these, but how are we doing in terms that even when you have such people, a person knows that they can easily contact police, there's that good relationship and have response in time as we move out of here?
Three things. What do I mean? When you are far away from whatever, you cannot be able to effectively be able to respond. The reason why we tend to give you the contacts of your local police is because they must be effectively be accessible, available, and visible within your community. When you desire to keep the number, telephone contact of a commissioner, now a commissioner who covers the entire Uganda, while you are despising your police in Nabisalu because you have a commissioner, then you may find a challenge in as far as police response is concerned. Two, we are definitely challenged as an organization because some of our policemen have that laissez-faire attitude, but not all, some. But if it comes to our notice that indeed we have some of those people, we are able to handle them, because at the end of it all, we don't want to breach our social contract with you. Three, you may find that the resources, especially the logistical support, especially the motor vehicles, the motorcycles, are not available as quickly as possible. But what that means is that once there is an issue of that nature, call. You can call the OC, you can call the DPC, you can call the RPC, because at least the RPC can be able to look for alternatives within the areas there. But above all, today I was listening to one of the whatever, and I had a community complaining about payment for police services. There are services for which members all out there want to urge you, for which you are supposed to pay. Services for which you are supposed to pay. You want a pistol. That one you must buy.
Very expensive.
You have whether very expensive to your choice. You want it. You want a guard. You want escort duty. You must pay. Those are services. You want a police report. You must pay. And when you are paying for such services, the money goes to the consolidated fund, not to the police. You pay for your EPS, this reckless driving, drink to drive, like some of you, that one you pay. But the services for which you don't pay, please, one, a policeman must go and arrest a suspect. Please, you want fire attendant services. You want canine. Canine, we are talking of dog services.
Yes.
I am not saying this because I'm not aware that there are some fraudulent police officers who tend to exploit this. But if you realize that there is such a policeman, report him or her, because at the end of it all, the Uganda Police Force, headed by the Inspector General of Police, gazetted the services for which Ugandans must get from the police. Canine services, free. Fire attendant, free. You are making an entry at the police, free.
Police bond?
Police bond, free. Therefore, this business of getting, you begin conniving amongst yourselves, Then somebody, you pay the money, then when you see me on a program, you begin saying, mutu sasuza. Whoever pays for their service, please ask him for a receipt.
Well, I must give room for the sportsman. He's ready to tell us what is happening, give us sports updates. I just want to thank you so much, Commissioner of Police, Anatoli Muletera, for your time. And fellow Ugandans, it is us to ensure that we are responsible and work together, security agencies, to have security at its top in our country. See you in the next hour. I must leave room for Chibidango to give you sports updates. Good morning.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
A cambiare le regole del gioco, ma voglio viverla così questa avventura, senza frontiere, con il cuore in gola. Il mondo in una giostra di colori, e il vento accarezza le bandiere. Arriva un brivido e ti trascina via, e sciogli in un abbraccio la follia. Notti magiche, inseguendo un gol sotto il cielo di un'estate italiana, e negli occhi tuoi voglia di vincere. Un'estate, un'avventura in più, quel sogno che comincia da bambino e che ti porta sempre più lontano. Non è una favola, è dagli spogliatoi.
Good morning. The Kaiser signed out yesterday. Those who know the Kaiser, that is Franz Beckenbauer, the German football legend. I started with that song because that was actually the theme song released 34 years ago for the 1990 World Cup. And indeed, but he did win that World Cup as a coach for West Germany before they became the United Germany. But those who watch Franz Beckenbauer, a few will tell you, like Mzee Vidadi Sali, who is also almost the next to the grave if I can say. But the Kaiser, Franz Beckenbauer, was talked about as one of the best players the world has ever produced. I mean, he was actually in that elite class that had Zico, players like the late Pele, then the Dutch magician Johan Cruyff, and so many other players, including the former British great, that is Jack and Brian Robson. He was really that kind of a player. But I remember talking to my brother Nixon. When back yesterday we were chatting, because he did watch the entire 90 World Cup. I wasn't really able to watch. I was a bit younger then. But remembering Franz Beckenbauer and how they used to call him the Kaiser, and his masterpiece in terms of tactics. I would sit here and praise Pep Guardiola as one of the greatest managers of all time. But many of you never saw Johan Cruyff or Franz Beckenbauer or even Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. If you had watched such players, if you had watched them coach football, you would be convinced that what we are watching today was actually done 40, 50 years ago in the world of football. But he signs out, and now what is left to talk about him is the legacy he left. And the question is, if you're a football player, if you're doing anything in the field, what legacy are you going to leave? Will you be a Beckenbauer, or will you be a Maradona, Diego, or even a Pele? You might not be a star in whatever you do, but you perfect it, you do it well, so that when your time comes, they will speak about you. Now, he assembled a team of great players. For me, what I can recall is he had a captain called Lothar Matthäus. He lost the 1986 World Cup to Argentina 3-2 in the final in Mexico. Then he comes back at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome and wins it 1-0. That famous penalty scored by Andreas Bremer gave West Germany the win. And when I was watching interviews of former players who played under him, from Lothar Matthäus to Rido, Karl-Heinz Rido, to Thomas Helmer, to players like Rudi Voller, Lothar Matthäus, Jürgen Klinsmann, they all played under him, and they could clearly tell you who the Kaiser was during his coaching time and his playing days. He did win the World Cup in 1974 in Germany, but then, of course, they played against England in '66. But the late Bobby Charlton also gave a testimony. Muhammad Ali one time met the Kaiser in his during his time, and said that if he was a footballer, he would love to be as intelligent as the Kaiser. That is Franz Beckenbauer. And there was the goals that used to be scored, and they used to call them Beckenbauer. When the goal could hit the inside of the post and then goes in the net, they would say, "I'm be Beckenbauer." You remember those days of the Kataka at the college where he used to play. So those who are there maybe can also tell. But Franz Beckenbauer signs out, age 78. He joins his friends, that is Pele, Bobby Charlton, Johan Cruyff, and so many others that have left us who were former soccer greats. So rest in peace, Franz Beckenbauer, until you meet again. Not we, because I'm not a German, so we might not meet anywhere. For me, I'll meet my grandfathers, not Franz Beckenbauer. Maybe if heaven receives everybody, maybe we'll meet somewhere. But if heaven receives whites separately and blacks differently, so I might not meet Beckenbauer anywhere in heaven, but I'll meet my grandfathers. But born 1945 and signs out in 2024, aged 78. The man nicknamed the Kaiser finally signs out and joins his, like I said, his fellow stars, Johan Cruyff, Bobby Charlton, Diego Maradona, Pele, Zagallo also passed on the other day. So the generation is actually phasing out. The Beckenbauer generation is almost phasing out. Now the Yupa cases and the others are the ones left in the field. But Yupa, I think Yupa is young, and Otto Rehago, they're a bit younger than Franz Beckenbauer. Though 78 and Fergie is 82 and still moving well. So, you know, life is also luck. Beckenbauer signs out at 78. Alex Ferguson is so strong at 82. And you see, sometimes life is funny. Anyway, away from France back in the bar, and of course the demise into basketball, where we had games this morning. And as I speak now, the game has just ended between the Clippers and the Suns. And of course, the Clippers have beaten the Suns 138 to 111. We also had games. The Hornets did lose the Bulls 119. 2012, we had the Pacers beating the Boston Celtics. Baguma Innocent loves the Celtics, I know. 133 for the Pacers and 131 for the Celtics. For me, the first quarter is where my attention is, and the third quarter. A 67-point quarter, the first quarter, and the fourth quarter was a 77-point quarter. Wow, what a game of basketball. Then the Wizards lost to the Thunder 136 to 128, and of course we had the Miami Heat as well. Miami Heat beating the Rockets, that was 120 to 113. The Bucks lost the Jazz 132 to 116. I watched these, for me, Luka Doncic and other subs really make my day. Whenever I watch basketball, their players I watch, and I feel like, yeah, they really have something in their tank to offer to the fans. Tomorrow morning, as we come into studio, we'll have at 3:30 a.m. that game will be. There will be a game at Madison Square Garden between New York Knicks and the Portland Trail Blazers. That will be at 3:30. Then at 4:30, at the American Airlines Center, we'll have the Mavericks taking on the Grizzlies. Then at 6:30, the King will be in action. Yesterday, Kule said that LeBron surpassed Karim Jabbar in terms of points by the NBA. But the question will be to you, Kule, that LeBron surpassed Jabbar against which opponents? Against who? But anyway, you can't take it away from him that he's a star. So whatever the points he has generated, he's been playing for us quite a long time. LeBron is 38 years. But the question of against who will also always come up, Kule. I know. So the Lakers take on the Raptors. We used to talk about Thierry Henry in football, and I would used to ask Felix Manyindo at Samson Demog that Henry only comes up against San Marino and Azerbaijan, teams like Andorra and Liechtenstein. When it comes to Italy, you don't see Henry running around against Paul Maldini or taking on Bidia Costacata. So LeBron James might have played in an era where it's a free scoring game. There's little defense. He's 6'7", 8", big, almost 200 kilograms. So you're going to play against the Fambas and you get 1,000 points in a single game because you are LeBron and there's a Famba in defense for the Blazers. You're playing for the Lakers. But what if LeBron had the resistance of playing against the Shaq or Dennis Rodman or even Scottie Pippen or even the man, Dirk Nowitzki? Would he get those points, if you ask me? I don't think so. But anyway, everybody's lucky. You can be the best student at Namiyango because the Ruben is left. But if they were there, you wouldn't have been the best. Just in case you think you are the best. So, not watering down LeBron's achievements, it's not his problem that played in an era where the defense is not catered for. It's not his problem that played in an era where there are limited stars. I mean, from Steph Curry and Dirk Nowitzki and players like Paul Gasol, maybe he stands out to be the best, maybe. But just imagine an era that had teams. I mean, the great Chicago Bulls team that won 7 rings under Michael Jordan as the star. Then you go to the great Golden State Warriors team that also won back-to-back rings under Steph Curry as their star. Then you look at teams like, let's say, Bucks who come in once in a while, the Raptors with Kawhi Leonard, Lowry, and Pascal Siakam. So maybe LeBron was lucky, more like as Zidane. He was lucky to play for France, having had players behind him who were so excellent, from Lizarazu to Massoud Desailly to Frank Libo to Lolo Bro, players like Vince Candela, Lian Thuram. So maybe that was a generation where Zidane was supposed to stand out, having had 10 men who were superstars behind him. Why not win a World Cup in '98 as a star? Maybe. But put Zidane in the Ugandan team and see if the World Cup will be won by Uganda. Uganda. Anyway, but of course, back to the games. Like I said, the games we have tomorrow morning. The Lakers will take on the Raptors, then the Pistons will take on the Kings. The Magic will take on the Wolves. The Knicks will take on the Blazers. Of course, the Mavericks also be in action against the Grizzlies. That will be in the NBA. And lastly, yesterday, we had a game that was played in the FA Cup. Wigan did lose to Man United. That was by 2-0 goals from Dalo and Bruno Fernandes. Gave United that comfortable 2-0 win against... that was against Wigan. Then, of course, the other games, FA Cup games, because the draw was done yesterday. Birmingham will take on Hull, Blackpool will take on Forest, Bolton will take on Luton. That is round 4 of the FA Cup. Then Bristol City will take on West Ham. Bristol Rovers will take on Norwich. East Leigh will take on Newport. And Wolves will play Brentford. That will be in the FA Cup. And of course, Bournemouth will play against Swansea. Blackburn will take on Wrexham, Chelsea, Aston Villa. Palace, Stoke, Everton in the replay will take on Luton or Bolton. Fulham against Newcastle. Ipswich will take on Maidstone United. Leeds will play against Plymouth. Leicester will take on Hull City or Birmingham City. Liverpool will take on Norwich or Bristol after that replay. Then Newport County or East Leigh will take on Man U. Sheffield against Brighton. Sheffield Wednesday. Okay, there are 2 Sheffields here. There's United and Wednesday. United will take on Brighton. Wednesday will take on Coventry. Spurs will take on City. That's a pick of the tie, the 4th round in the FA. Watford, Southampton, West Brom, Brentford or Wolves, then West Ham, Stoke, Bristol. That will be a replay. We'll take on Forest or Blackpool. Whoever goes through, that will be the 4th round of the FA Cup. Games. Do I have messages? Yeah, I have 1 or 2 here, but I won't go into the messages. Time is not my best ally. That's it from sports, but I send my condolences to Joseph Kabuleta and George Gozi. There are 2 people I know support Germany and who watched France back in the play, the Kaiser. So condolences to you, comrades. Though you are Ugandans, I knew your love for Kaiser and the German national team. So sorry about the loss of one of the soccer greats Germany has ever produced. That is the late Franz Beckenbauer. Good morning.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Junko. Yo. What you check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What